Yes, after an 8-hour meeting and extended disruption by protesters on Wednesday, Houston City Council approved a $7 billion budget for the next fiscal year, which starts in July. Council members offered 71 amendments to the budget. 14 of them were approved, including hiring additional animal enforcement officers, extra funding for kennel cleaning at the city's animal shelter, drainage and ditch improvements, and the creation of an investment fund to address health benefits and life insurance for retired city employees. Facing a more than $200 million deficit this year, Whitmire's administration slashed about $75 million in spending from the city's $3 billion general fund. Joining us now is Houston City Council member from District C, Abbie Kamin. She represents Greater Heights, University Place, Meyerland area, Braeswood, Midtown, to name a few. She also voted no on the mayor's budget. If you have a question for City Councilwoman Abbie Kamin, you can give us a call now at 713-440-8870. City Councilwoman, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hi.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
So busy day for you yesterday, huh?
Yeah.
So
It was, and we're continuing. We had some more committee meetings this morning, so the work continues.
So friendly fire here, but you were, one of 3 city council members that voted against the budget, which left how many that voted for it?
We have a council of 16. So including the mayor, there were 3 of us that voted no on this budget, as you said. So overwhelming majority did vote in favor of it.
And you were kind of like, please don't hate me, but I'm saying no. So tell us why you don't want. What do you say? I mean, I got to give it to the mayor. We were at like 330 million, and we've really reduced that default. I know we had to go into our rainy day fund a little bit for it, but he's gotten rid of a lot of that debt.
Yes and no. Remember, coming into office, though, into my second term, we also had a much larger reserve fund balance, and we actually went negative before coming back up. So it's not just where we are, it's how much have we spent of those reserves in the past year alone. And I think that deserves some attention. But this was a really hard decision for me. I have never voted against a budget in my career, but I have been raising concerns throughout the entire budget process. We have committee hearings, right, throughout quote unquote budget season at City Hall. But I've been sounding the alarm that we are not fully prepared for the extreme weather and storms that we know are coming. And as literally we were voting on this budget, parts of Houston were flooding from the rain yesterday alone, just for a few hours. And now the risk to our city is magnified by the federal budget cuts and the chaos that is ensuing at the federal level, the mismanagement and gutting of FEMA, the National Weather Service. We have had science experts, meteorologists warning that we may not be able to accurately predict hurricanes and where they're going, but there's nothing in the budget to account for the potential lack of funding, including significant funding that the city has already lost. Remember, the derecho, which significantly impacted my district, one of the hardest hit, cost the city over $35 million. Hurricane Beryl, $59 million. We had 3 federally declared disasters in a single year last year. You mentioned the rainy day fund, but we had drawn down on all the reserves from that, and we're not even fully replenishing our rainy day fund. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Well, what else were you going to do? I mean, did you have a solution to this?
I did. I proposed putting forward an amendment to fully fund our rainy day fund.
How?
But unfortunately, action on that was deferred for several months.
Well,
and as we
are we
continue
to do
to work, say that one more time.
How are you going to fund it? It's a great idea, but how are you going to do it?
Yeah, so our rainy day fund, it's called the Budget Stabilization Fund, and it requires a minimum of right now $20 million, which we know is too low. When this was set in years past, way back when, that may have been enough, but we know it's not now. My amendment would have increased the amount and then required that we're fully replenishing it every year within 365 days. Right now, the city is only required to fill it within 2 years if you draw down. Again, with so many storms and extreme weather events that we're having, that's just not enough. My amendment actually pulled down from the reserve fund. Our general fund has a reserve, and it would have moved these dollars over, which keeps it in reserves, but protects it, walls it off so that it's saved for an emergency or a natural disaster. When the funds just sit in the general fund reserve balance, you can use them on important things like overtime funding, which the city will plan to do and continue to draw down. When you see water main breaks and we have to tap into it. So it's that reserve, but it can be used for a host of things. If we're not protecting some of those dollars for an emergency, we are not being fiscally responsible.
Had you gotten that amendment, would you have then been a yes on the budget, or was there more to it for you?
I think that there's more to it. I don't want to say I'd be an absolute no. I take all of this very seriously. I work with all of my colleagues. I was working with the administration on this. I've been very upfront the entire time about how uncomfortable I am with where we are. We're putting Houstonians at risk, failing to account for extreme weather and disaster needs. Part of the problem with that, and one of the other things I wasn't comfortable with, is when a storm hits, literally, City of Houston departments are not budgeting in their annual budget for emergency and natural disaster costs. So when a disaster hits, what essential services will need to be cut in order for us to respond? Because we absolutely have to respond. But where's that money going to come from? And that can mean additional cuts. And we were not being straight about where those cuts would come from.
You're listening to Hello Houston, and we're speaking with City of Houston Council member from District C, Abbie Kamin. You can join the conversation at 713-440-8870. Moving forward, the budget has been passed. What do you see is next for you and for your district? Because I do understand your area, like you said, often gets hit hard. We understand the Meyerland has it's a historical area that gets hit often and hard.
Yeah, I represent the most repetitively flooded areas, not only in the entire city, pretty much in the entire region, if not the state. And the greater Meyerland, Old Braeswood area is what has made national headlines. And we have made progress there, but not enough. But in other storms, just like yesterday, there's other examples where you have just a daily Houston thunderstorm, and there's places in the Heights that are even flooding right now. And it's called the Heights for a reason. It's the highest level in the city, but there are areas that are flooding. So I'm continuing to push and advocate and secure as many dollars as humanly possible for responsible drainage improvements and infrastructure to protect homes, protect businesses, and ensure that Houston can keep thriving. But getting those investments is critical.
And isn't that what's known as the neighborhood budget you're talking about for ditch and drainage? Is that what you wanted to see more money pushed into?
There's several different buckets in terms of council funding. There's the district fund, but that can only fund a few projects a year. Safe sidewalks and crossings around schools. Drainage really takes a much larger investment. And that's where other buckets of funds like the Stormwater Action Team, it's an acronym, but basically that's your $1 million+ range of drainage. We've gotten some additional projects that way, but we also need to be going to other entities and getting them to invest as well. Our partners in the region as well as at the county, but also our TIRZ, Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone. They are able to fund a lot of the infrastructure that the city is not currently able to fund right now. So it's working with partners, coming up with solutions, and we are having some success. Previously, a lot of those federal dollars were helping us in terms of funding these programs and projects, specifically to reduce flooding and protect neighborhoods. A lot of that is being cut, a lot of that is being changed, and we don't know where those projects are going to stand either.
Do you think that some of the federal cuts that have happened are going to affect us negatively? I mean, are we in trouble because of those cuts? Because we're kind of known as a blue city.
We're already in trouble. I think the city has been doing not a good job at being very clear about what is happening right now. The health department, half of the budget, pretty much in terms of programs and services, relies on federal grants. That has been slashed in half. There have been layoffs. We are having to reduce vaccine availability in terms of our mobile vaccine units. We're having to cut back hours. There's certain grants we can't even now fund 2 of our city facility projects because of cuts to federal funding. Even if you take it a step over into Congress, Congress wasn't able to include in the continuing resolution our requests for funding for the districts. We've been working very closely with Congresswoman Fletcher, but none of the 25 requests for funding were included in the continuing resolution. So our shot at even drawing down federal dollars for those localized projects has been cut. Then you go over to FEMA. Then you go over to NOAA and the National Weather Service, and they're not even able to deploy, I was reading, enough weather balloons to track where storms are coming. So we don't have experts on the ground. We aren't able to leverage everything that we used to be able to rely on. And even in Missouri and Arkansas, it took over 2 months to get a federal declaration for disaster. That can significantly endanger Houstonians.
Now, Councilwoman Kamin, a big portion of the mayor's budget is going towards public safety. How does your district fall in regards to public safety in your neighborhoods in your area?
Yeah, I look at public safety holistically, and we appreciate, and I work very closely with our police department and our fire department. Public safety remains a top priority. And one of the budget amendments that I did pass, was able to pass and put forward with my colleague, Councilmember Amy Peck, related to supporting and bolstering the fire department's wildland group, which is doing incredible work, not just for the city of Houston, but actually coming to the aid of other areas throughout the country. But public safety also means enabling the city to function in a way where we do not strain our law enforcement resources. When police are having to play the role of inspectors in the Department of Neighborhoods or inspectors for public works, that is drawing away public safety resources, police resources, away from addressing the urgent needs that we need them to be focused on.
Well, a lot of these drainage and ditch budgets come out of our water bill. Mm-hmm. True?
So some of it does. That is correct. And there was a settlement.
I'm worried about our water bills going up because we need more money for drainage and ditches.
That was one of the concerns that the controller actually raised, is that there's you're seeing on your bill an increase. Now, some of that was passed previously. We're under a consent decree, if you recall, with the EPA, because we haven't been investing enough in our sewage and wastewater. And what's happening is you're seeing all these sewage overflows. And I know that because I'm getting those calls. District C had some of the highest numbers. So those rates are matched to that. But I want to remind residents, and I'm very concerned about affordability as well here, is, again, we head into a more chaotic economic environment right now, whether it's because of tariffs and other things that are happening. Houstonians are being very careful, and should be. I am as well, about my dollars and where my money is going. With water, it's important to remember that under state law, the city of Houston cannot profit off of water services. It is a health-based service. You are only able to recoup expenditures and costs. Now, how can we mitigate some of those costs? Addressing the water leaks holistically, addressing a lot of our infrastructure that is seriously outdated. That's where a lot of those dollars are going.
And, you know, the Kinder Institute at Rice recently heard from 1,200 Houstonians through a survey that came right after John Whitmire released his proposed budget. And the survey found that not just how Houstonians want to spend their money, but that they're willing to pay more in taxes and fees if they are ensuring that certain things like infrastructure and drainage is being addressed. Now, the mayor's proposed budget did not address that. How are you going to breach that with your constituents, your area, given that this budget has been passed?
Yeah, I'm going to listen, as I was elected to do, to the residents in my district. And that's my number one job, besides keeping everyone safe and advocating for safety and protecting Houstonians. There is a concern because of several things. Because of when our fiscal year is, as it pertains to the budget, and I raised this yesterday as well as the day before, we go off of assumptions of assessed values. Those actual numbers do not come out until the fall. So we're making a guess on where we think assessed property values are going to be that says, no, we don't need to raise the tax rate or increase taxes in the city of Houston. And I have voted the majority of my career to actually decrease taxes. But we're basing everything on assumptions, not the actual numbers. And I also raised the point that we should probably be looking at moving our fiscal year so that it lines with the actual numbers and reports. We're not speculating. However, the city of Houston is under the most restrictive revenue cap, pretty much the largest one in the entire country for a city of our size, most restrictive in the state of Texas. Now, all local jurisdictions are under a statewide revenue cap, and I support that. But ours goes even farther, and we have lost billions of dollars since 2015 as a result of this cap, and it only saves Houstonians approximately $100 a year. Now, again, this was a voter-imposed cap, and I'm going to defer and respect the will of the voters. But what are we doing to communicate what city services we're providing, what those dollars that we are using are getting people, and what, let's say, an extra dollar would be or extra $5 would be? And let's have that conversation. The same thing goes, for example, with our trash pickup. Trash is delayed. We are... my house looks like an Amazon warehouse from not getting recycling picked up because it's backing up so much. But when we have had the number of disasters that we've had, the wear and tear on those trucks is not something that was planned for. So now we're having to play catch up with our vehicles, and we're losing out on personnel because we're not able to pay enough. And let's say those drivers that we're training are then going to Metro or to a commercial company. So we have to remain competitive, and we have to have a conversation. If fees are going to be implemented, though, I think it's very important, in addition to hearing from residents and Houstonians about what they want to see, we have to make sure that those dollars are being specifically allocated to the purpose we're saying it for, whether that's in a protected fund or however we formulate it. It can't just go into the general fund and sit there for any use. We need to be accountable to the voters and to Houstonians. And that goes back to the original question, which is how are we conveying and talking to residents about what these dollars are getting us and what we're missing out on?
Speaking of talking to residents, we had a text that came in that said, for the council member, how much revenue can we generate if we stop giving tax subsidies to corporations?
So I'm not sure exactly what subsidies the texture is.
If I had to guess, I would say that they're talking about when to attract businesses and corporations into our area. We drop a lot of taxes. We move things to make it more convenient for them to come into our area. If we stopped doing that, we have an attractive area, I believe, as it is. Could we generate revenue that way?
There may be some, but I think there's other things we need to be looking at as well. I think ensuring a thriving economy and global economy in Houston is what Houston is all about. We are the energy capital of the world. So yes, I think we are thriving as is, but I don't want to give an absolute yes or no. I think that there's certain circumstances. When it comes to revenue generation, though, we should be looking at every opportunity while making sure that we're keeping things affordable for Houston.
Last question I have here. The newsroom sent this over to us. We just received word that construction workers hit bricks in the 4th Ward, Freedmanstown. City departments are supposed to have additional measures in place. Do you know if the bricks in Freedmanstown were recently damaged?
I was out there as soon as we got word. So in my office, there's some history behind this. So for listeners that don't know, the bricks in Freedmanstown are not only a protected landmark, they are a cherished part of the city's history. These are bricks that were laid by freed individuals that were settling in Freedmanstown. So this is something that is not only near and dear to the neighborhood, but to the city of Houston. And in previous years, prior to being in office, there were instances where construction workers were doing improvements, again, really old infrastructure, and the neighborhood deserves attention. So some streets where there aren't bricks, we are getting that infrastructure improved. But they mistakenly hit several years ago a bunch of the bricks and started lifting them up. So we created in our office basically a policy. If we get a call from a neighbor that says, they've hit the bricks or there's work happening, something's happening with the bricks, we go out immediately. And our office is instructed, if you have to lay down in the street to stop the work, lay down in the street. So until we can figure out what's happening and get archaeological experts there on scene. Unfortunately, literally the night before the budget, we get one of those calls. There is construction in the area, and it looks like a contractor did hit some of the bricks. And started to remove them. So we made it out there. We working with the Public Works Department and that area's TERS and the neighborhood. And huge shout out to Sharonda Johnson, who we call fondly the mayor of Freedmanstown. She was out there and saw it happen. That's how we got the call. But we were able to get them to stop work till we could figure it out. We worked with the contractors to get overnight security to stay by the bricks. Because again, once the media started covering it, I love our journalists. My family is a family of journalists, but of course that brought more attention and we didn't want somebody going and taking one for themselves. So we got security out there, and we've actually been working even throughout the day today for the plan on how to safely move them. The bricks have now been moved to a secure facility. The ones that were unearthed and moved and damaged, we keep them at a special facility because, again, there's several years prior to me being in office, there's also those bricks that were removed. And they're protected there until they can be installed back into the streets in a safe way. So we're in the process of that. We have another meeting tomorrow with the Freedmanstown Conservancy, the TERS, Public Works, and archaeological experts to make sure moving forward with this construction, while they were supposed to have some additional redundancies in place already, we want to make sure that's being followed to a T moving forward.
Excellent. Right. Houston,
never a dull moment.
Never in the city of Houston City Council member from District C, Abbie Kamin. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.